Level 1. You wake up at 4:45 in the morning. You don't fly anything. You don't see anything. You pick up a clipboard. Your job today is to check badges at the entrance to Sector L14. Verify the paperwork is in order. Verify the signature matches. Verify the access code hasn't expired. You're the guy with the clipboard at Area 51. ACT-1. The first day. The official name is NNSS. Nevada National Security Site. Nobody calls it that. You call it the place. You were recruited 6 months ago, not through a job posting, not through a friend's referral, through a phone call. A woman with a neutral accent recited your full name, your date of birth, your mother's address, and your bank account number, in sequence, without pausing. After that, she said, "Are you interested in working for the United States government?" You said yes. The clearance process took 4 months. Tier 5 background investigation. The highest level. They interviewed your neighbors, your high school teachers, your old college roommates. They found a photo of you from 2019 with a friend who, 2 years later, was arrested for drug trafficking. You spent 3 hours answering questions about it. In the end, you received a badge. White. Area code 02. No access to any research sector. Only the outer perimeter, the cafeteria, and the administrative wing. But you're inside. Area 51 officially is the Nevada Test and Training Range attached to Edwards Air Force Base. The technical address is latitude 37.2350 degrees north, longitude 115.8111 degrees west, in the middle of the Mojave Desert, 83 miles from Las Vegas, 13 miles from any main road. You arrive by bus, no windows. Everyone arrives by bus with no windows. The bus leaves from a parking lot in Las Vegas at 5:30 a.m. You can't say where you're going. You can't say how long it takes. You can't take your phone out of your pocket once the bus pulls away. A security agent sits in front. Another sits in back. Neither one speaks during the ride. In your first week, you learn 3 things. First, you don't ask what happens in the sectors you don't have access to. You simply don't ask. Second, you don't take notes, not about the weather, not about what you ate in the cafeteria, nothing. Third, the word classified doesn't exist here. Here, things simply don't exist. You don't learn these 3 things because someone sat down and explained them to you. You learn them because a colleague, a guy named Marcus, 34 years old, logistics analyst, asked the wrong question at a morning briefing. The following week, Marcus didn't come back on the bus. Nobody asked where he went. You didn't ask either. Act 2. The ladder. 3 months in, and you get a promotion. It doesn't arrive as an email. It doesn't arrive as a conversation with HR. A man in a gray suit appears at your desk at 2:17 p.m. on a Tuesday. He's 55 years old. White hair, thin-framed glasses. He isn't wearing a badge. He says, "Are you interested in working in a different department?" You say yes. You always say yes. Your new badge is yellow. Area code 07. Sector 07 is Unconventional Materials Analysis. The official name is long and technical and you'll forget it. What you won't forget is the first object you see when you walk into the lab on your first day. It's a metallic alloy, about the size of an open hand. Texture similar to aluminum, but lighter, much lighter. You pick it up with your gloved hand and for a second you think you're holding a sheet of paper. The technician beside you says, density of 0.3 grams per cubic centimeter. Standard aluminum has a density of 2.7. This material is 9 times lighter than aluminum while maintaining the same rigidity. You ask where it came from. The technician looks at you for 2 seconds, then looks back at his clipboard, then says, Sector F. You find out later that Sector F doesn't appear on any map of the complex. Your job in Sector 7 is cataloging. You receive samples, you log dimensions, weight, surface temperature, basic electrical conductivity. You never receive context. You only receive the object. Over 6 months, you catalog 47 distinct samples. 11 of them don't match any material in the Department of Defense's known alloys database. You note this in your reports. The report leaves your desk and goes to someone above you. You never see what happens after that. But the job pays well. $94,000 annually on the white badge. $127,000 on the yellow badge, plus $1,200 per month in state secrets compensation, plus $800 per month in operational isolation bonus pay. That's because you can't tell anyone where you work, not even your family. You tell your mother you work in research and development for a federal contractor. She thinks you work for a tech company in Nevada. You don't correct her. In month 10, you receive the blue badge. Area code 12. Blue badge means underground access. Act 3. The underground. You go down 8 floors. This is not a metaphor. Literally 8 floors below ground level. The elevator takes 40 seconds. There's no music. There's no mirror. There's a camera on the ceiling and a biometric reader on the side wall. You press your palm to the reader every time you go down and every time you come back up. If your palm doesn't hit the reader on the way up, they come to find you. The underground is kept at a controlled temperature of 64 degrees Fahrenheit. It doesn't matter what's happening outside. It doesn't matter if it's August. It doesn't matter if the desert is at 108 degrees. Down there, always 64. You start recognizing the smells. Ozone, industrial solvent, sometimes a smell you can't identify. Slightly sweet, slightly metallic. You learn not to comment on the smell. Your work here is different. You no longer catalog physical samples. You catalog data. Specifically, you work with electromagnetic frequency files, records of emissions captured by NRO, National Reconnaissance Office, satellites at 14 specific coordinates around the globe. You receive raw data. You filter noise. You identify recurring frequency patterns. The patterns exist. Across 13 years of data you analyze, there are 23 electromagnetic emission events that don't correspond to any known natural radio frequency source. No active human satellite. No known military installation. No documented geological phenomenon. 23 events at 14 distinct coordinates. Over 13 years. You write this in your report. The report leaves your desk. Nobody responds. In month 14, you have a conversation that changes everything. It's with a woman named Dr. Yoon. Red badge. Area code 18. You didn't even know area code 18 existed. She shows up in the data lab one afternoon and stands behind you for 2 full minutes before you notice. She says, "Did you find the pulses at coordinate G7? You say yes. She says, "And what do you think it is?" You hesitate. You know you shouldn't answer. You know answering is a risk, but you're 8 floors below ground level, in the middle of the Nevada desert, staring at data that hasn't made sense for 14 months. So you answer. You say, "Communication. It looks like structured communication." She doesn't react. She just looks at the screen for 3 seconds, then says, "That's what we think too," and walks away. Here I'm going to ask you something. You just discovered that there is, potentially, structured communication of unknown origin being monitored by the U.S. government for more than a decade. You have a family. You have a normal life outside that windowless bus. If you could leak this information, knowing you'd be arrested, knowing your life would be destroyed, but that the entire world would know the truth, would you do it? Or would you stay silent and keep collecting $127,000 a year? Tell me in the comments. 6 weeks after the conversation with Dr. Yoon, you receive the red badge. There's no ceremony. An envelope on your desk. Inside, a new badge and a single sheet of paper with 3 paragraphs. The first 2 are legal. Permanent confidentiality. Criminal penalties under the Espionage Act of 1917. Federal prison of up to 10 years for unauthorized disclosure of sensitive compartmented information. SCI. The third paragraph is different. It reads only, "As of this date, you are aware that the material to which you will have access is classified under the SAP, Special Access Program, designation UMBRA-7. This program does not exist in any public document of the United States government. The existence of this program cannot be confirmed or denied." Umbra 7. You fold the sheet back into the envelope. The envelope goes into a drawer. The drawer has a lock. You take the key home that night. You sleep poorly. The red badge grants access to Sector 18. Sector 18 is underground, but not through the same elevator you've been using. There's a second elevator in a side corridor you've passed dozens of times without noticing. It looked like a storage room door. It has a retinal biometric reader. You didn't know your eye had been registered. But it had. Sector 18 is smaller than you imagined. A room of roughly 430 square feet. 6 workstations. Cold, white lighting. In the center of the room, behind glass, There is a hermetic chamber kept at minus 320 degrees Fahrenheit, liquid nitrogen temperature. Inside the chamber, there are 3 objects. You won't describe the objects here. You'll never describe the objects, not because words would fail, though they would, but because you signed a document stating that describing these objects is a federal crime. What you can say is this: they were not manufactured here. Dr. Yoon has worked with these objects for 11 years. She's 47 years old. She's never been married. She has no children. She doesn't travel to visit family during the holidays because she can't talk about the work, and after 11 years, the work is all she has. One day you ask her how she does it. She says, "I don't do anything, I just keep going." You don't understand it at the time, you will understand later. Your work contract is renewed annually. With each renewal, your clearance level goes up slightly. With each level increase, the confidentiality agreement gets slightly more severe. With each renewal, you sign without reading too carefully, because the alternative is saying no, and saying no here has consequences that nobody explains clearly, but everyone understands. You make $158,000 in year 2, $184,000 in year 3. You bought an apartment in Henderson, Nevada, 2 bedrooms, city view. You go there on weekends. You listen to music. You cook sometimes. You call your mother. She asks how work is going. You say, "Fine." She asks if you're seeing anyone. You say, "I've been really busy." She laughs and says you need to get out more. In year 4, a colleague disappears. Not like Marcus. Marcus left 1 week and nobody brought him up again. This is different. The colleague's name is Dave, frequency analyst, like you. Red badge. He appears on the Las Vegas local news. Car accident. Nevada Route 375. The extraterrestrial highway, ironically. The car left the road at 2 a.m. No witnesses. Dave didn't drive. He took the bus like everyone else. You don't say anything about this to anyone. You begin to understand the 3rd paragraph of the envelope. UMBRA-7 doesn't exist in any public document. Its existence cannot be confirmed or denied. And now you too are inside that logic. You know things that don't exist. And that means the version of you that knows these things also, in a way, cannot fully exist in the real world. You can't be in a serious relationship. How would you explain where you work? What would you say during an argument when the other person asks why you never talk about your job? You can't see a therapist. Therapist-patient privilege isn't sufficient for SCI. You can't post on social media. No photos of anywhere. No text about anything. You start recognizing the others. The red badge colleagues who have been here longer than you. The 51-year-old analyst who always eats alone in the cafeteria. The 44-year-old engineer who does crossword puzzles on the bus ride back. Each one of them carries the same weight. You learn to recognize the weight in people's eyes. It's the look of someone who knows more than they can say, and who has spent so long unable to say it that they've forgotten how to want to. In year 5, someone offers you a way out. Not out of the program. Never out of the program. You don't leave the program. What they offer is a transfer, a post in Washington, D.C. Analysis work for a Senate committee. Less access, less isolation, more normal life. You think about it for a week. You say no. You don't know exactly why. Maybe because you're already too far from the shore to swim back. Maybe because what's inside the hermetic chamber at minus 320 degrees in Sector 18 is the most important thing any human being has ever seen. And you are among the 23 human beings on the planet who know that. Maybe because you've become like Dr. Yoon. You just keep going. It's 6:30 p.m. The bus is full. Everyone faces forward, Nobody talks. The 51-year-old analyst is sitting beside you. He has a book open on his lap, but he isn't reading. He's staring at nothing. You think about your mother. You think that she'll die one day without knowing what you do, without knowing what you've seen, without knowing that the world she understands is fundamentally different from the world you know. You think that should hurt more than it does. The bus leaves the desert. The lights of Las Vegas appear on the horizon, bright, pulsing. Tomorrow you'll wake up at 4:45, you'll pick up the clipboard, you'll go down 8 floors, and you'll keep guarding the biggest secret in human history for $184,000 a year and an apartment in Henderson that you visit on weekends. You spent your whole life wanting to do something that mattered. You did it, and you can't tell anyone.